In the months that followed the first waves of the Ridda uprisings, the map of the peninsula was still unsettled. Khalid ibn al-Walid had broken Tulayha's coalition in the north and scattered those who had gathered around him. But the rebellion that mattered most was still untouched. To the southeast lay Yamama, the homeland of the Banu Hanifa, a tribe far stronger and far more rooted than most in Arabia. Their land was rich, their wells deep, their settlements fortified, and their leader, Musaylimah ibn Habib, had gathered not only his own people, but a constellation of supporters and opportunists drawn by the promise of autonomy and power. From Medina, Abu Bakr watched the situation with cold realism. As long as Yamama stood defiant, Arabia could not be said to be united in anything more than name. Musaylimah did not merely refuse taxation or treaties. He claimed independent authority and commanded a standing force on his own ground. If left alone, that entity would become a rival polity in Central Arabia, walling off the route to Iraq and turning the tribal submission of Western Arabia into a hollow achievement. With that understanding, Abu Bakr ordered Khalid ibn al-Walid to march on Yamama and bring an end to Musaylimah. Khalid departed with a force hardened by weeks of rapid campaigning. Many among them had already fought in the Ridda and still remembered the battles of Medina's earliest years. Their march cut across the interior, through lands still unsettled by rebellion, and in several towns, small clusters of defectors either rejoined Khalid or slipped away toward Yamama, adding rumors to the dust they left behind. Stories of Musaylimah's strength multiplied in the retelling, and by the time Khalid reached the approaches of Najd, it was said that the Banu Hanifa could field more warriors than any other tribe opposing Medina. Inside Yamama, those rumors were not entirely without substance. Musaylimah's influence was broad, and his men were not the desperate raiders of smaller tribes, but settled fighters defending their own soil. Wells, orchards, and fields gave them logistical depth, and their fortifications provided fallback positions if the open field failed them. When word reached Musaylimah that Khalid was on the move, he did not attempt to flee, negotiate, or delay. Instead, he gathered his warriors near Aqraba, choosing ground he knew, among the cultivated heartland where his supporters lived and worked. The meeting between the two forces was not sudden. Skirmishers, scouts, and envoys moved between the camps as both sides tested strength and resolve. Khalid attempted to peel away support from Musaylimah's coalition, sending messages to individual clans and reminding them of treaties with Medina. But the Banu Hanifa had committed not only prestige, but identity to their independence. Few were inclined to break ranks now that the decisive confrontation was at hand. By the time the last envoys returned to their commanders, it was clear that the matter would not be settled by diplomacy. Both armies drew closer to Aqraba, setting the stage for one of the fiercest battles of the age. The men of Khalid ibn al-Walid advanced as veterans in a disciplined body, while the warriors of Banu Hanifa gathered with the conviction that they were defending their homeland and their leader. Between them stood the political destiny of Arabia. If Khalid prevailed, Medina would emerge with a unified peninsula at its back and a hardened army capable of looking beyond its deserts. If Musaylimah held his ground, Central Arabia would fracture into competing states, and the authority of Medina would wither before it could take root. It was there, in the cultivated lands of Aqraba, that the road to Yamama came to an end. What followed would become a day remembered in both pride and grief, for the blood that would soak those fields would shape the armies that soon marched beyond Arabia, Cet's frontiers.